Good morning. In reflection of this class, I'm trying to choose a topic that is meaningful and is something that I can reflect on. I'm going to analyze what it takes to be culturally responsive or culturally competent. Now, I think this topic has been debated so much in this class that some of this is going to seem probably redundant, but anyhow, it's my personal take on what I feel is responsible for being culturally competent. Now, before you can ever be culturally competent, I think it's important to understand who you are as a person, what characteristics make you up as an individual, and how those values and characteristics that you hold dear have been manipulated by society, or rather the outside influences that affect who you are. So I find it extremely difficult to be culturally competent if you don't have a grasp on your true sense of self. You don't have an understanding of your biases. You don't have an understanding of who you are as an individual, because before you can ever try to understand who somebody else is or what somebody else needs, you first need to identify those factors that make you who you are. And like I said, this has been stated over and over again, but this is my personal take. Once you establish who you are, I feel that you can only begin to try to help or be culturally responsive to. Oh, excuse me, it's my friend. Be culturally responsive to somebody else. And once you have established that, I think the next thing that really needs to be cultivated is relationships, and how you are able to build relationships with your students. I don't ever think that you can call yourself cultural competent or try to be relevant in the classroom without first building relationships with your kids. In my opinion, that's the true objective, and that's a piss poor word. That's the reason why we educate is to build relationships with students to foster mature development. At whatever age group you decide to teach, that's why we do this. So once you're able to identify who you are, identify your biases and how your particular personality, characteristics, values, beliefs have been manipulated, transformed through society, you then have to find ways in which to connect to your students, find ways in which to build relationships with your students in order to understand what it is they hold dear and what it is important to them. Once you establish that, then you can find ways to take classroom information, take the knowledge that you teach or the information that you teach, and manipulate it to what better serves them. And what better serves them is the wrong way to say it, but what is relevant to them. How can they take the information that you're giving them and find relevance in it? And I think that, along with building relationships, is what teaching is about. It's everybody can sit up in front of a whiteboard and write down formulas and direct instruct and tell students what they need to know for the test and this and that and so much. But how much of that information are they actually going to retain over the years? Those teachers that are able to build relationships with their kids and find relevant ways to connect the instruction to each one of their kids, I believe, are culturally competent. I think that is what the idea of being culturally competent or culturally relevant is all about, is the process of being able to take instruction that may not seem relevant, that may not seem pertinent to an individual's life, and connect it in some capacity in which they find meaning. Um, that's kind of the gist of it. I didn't go into this to be an authoritarian figure. That's a terrible use of a word. But rather, I got into this primarily because I love working with high school kids. I think the dynamic and the way their maturity, the process, or their sense of identity is being developed through this particular period of time is really fascinating. And I think, well, I believe that we have a great deal of influence on them, and I cherish that responsibility, and that's the main reason that I got into this. And secondly, I've seen too many kids with a great deal of potential fall to the wayside because they were not given the tools to succeed. And that's not to say that every child has the ability to succeed. I think it's our job to give every child the tools in which they can use to succeed. And if they happen to take those tools and use them to develop, I think we've done our job. But in closing, being culturally competent is being able to build relationships and find and connect instruction in a way that is relevant to our students' lives.